Number 88.
Good afternoon. Thank you for devoting so much of your time, especially those of you with young families. I'm Alex Arturo Reza. I taught at San Fernando High School from 1968 to 2002, and we're proud to claim Commissioner Bararba as a San Fernando High School graduate. Go Tigers. Okay. Like I said, I taught at San Fernando High School. My wife was principal at San Fernando Middle School, which is right across the street. I'm on the board of directors for the Bert Corona Charter School in Pacoima. I spent most of my working life in the Northeast San Fernando Valley. I'm here to advocate for the interest of the Northeast San Fernando Valley, or the East Valley, as you've heard several times. What we don't want to happen again is what happened 10 years ago. You've heard the term gerrymandering. All of you are familiar. We feel that the Northeast San Fernando Valley was not denied proper representation 10 years ago because of gerrymandering. If you take a look, mostly on the congressional side, I'm primarily interested in the congressional district. If you look at the 28th, up through the northern area, San Fernando, that's Arleta, that's Pacoima. That is a homogeneous, it's mostly working class, but as you go farther south, especially as you go west, towards Encino, towards Sherman Oaks, towards Studio City, that's middle to upper class. If some of you have gone down Ventura Boulevard in Encino, it's a high-end, lots of fancy restaurants, commercial buildings. If you go down San Fernando Road or Laurel Canyon Road Boulevard, it's a whole different story. So we feel that this area was gerrymandered to the detriment of a lot of the working class voters in that area. Could you call up the 39th Assembly District, please? What we would prefer to see is to use the 39th, very briefly, we feel that the 39th Assembly District could be the basis for a congressional district and move the boundary south to 134 and east to Vineland, going north up to the 210, and that is a community of interest that could form the basis of a congressional district.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, I have some questions. Yes. I can't really see the Assembly District really well. It is on. I'm sorry. I'm getting tired. I can't really see the Assembly District.
Yeah, I have a map here if you like.
That would be great. But I'm just, if we could, so that everybody can see it, so that since you're
highlighting it right now.
Yeah, since that's what your suggestion could be the basis for a congressional. I'm curious. You say that this was gerrymandered because there's big differences between the north part of that congressional district
yes.
and the south.
Yeah, mostly on the western portion of the district.
So, where are the? Tell us about what communities of interest you're describing,
okay.
or in the north, or not, and how we could capture them better if we did it differently.
Yeah, for one thing, I've heard reference to the divisions between cultural areas like the 405. I don't think that's true anymore. 10 years ago, 20 more years ago, the 405 was kind of a division between class, social economic background. You take a look at the latest census statistics, that west side of the 405 has changed somewhat. So I think there's some misleading perceptions of this area. But we would advocate that the northern part of the 39th district be included in the congressional district, which is now the 28th. Right now is represented under the 27th. We would go south to the 134, where we would capture North Hollywood, same thing there. And the last 10 years, North Hollywood has become much more of a working class neighborhood. And then we would go west to Vineland, and then up to Glen Oaks, and then cut across into the north, into the Hanson Dam area. Probably capture Lakeview Terrace, which is also working class, and then follow the 210 up to the northern part of the current 39th district.
That's your recommendation for congressional.
That would be the recommendation for a congressional, and if you need to reach at 702 for a congressional district, we suggest that you consider that line that's referred to as between the Wall of China. There's a couple of cracks in there, and a few people have come across into the west side, like Monroe High School. When I started teaching, Monroe High School was a middle class, predominantly white high school. Now it's, I would characterize it as working class, and it's about 90% Latino. That has happened. If you take a look at the census from 10 years ago and the last one, there's been significant changes there. I think that was a slight mischaracterization as a 405 being a definite line of demarcation between the so-called East and the so-called West.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And I wish you had been teaching when I was at San Fernando High School.
She would have been my student. Thank you.
Number 89.
Hello, I'm David E. Ramirez. I've lived in the North Hills area for the last 34 years. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner Baraba, for acknowledging me at the beginning of this whole meeting back in ages ago. Was it 2:30 p.m.? And this is amazing to hear everybody's wonderful presentations and your comments, too. I kind of echo the same comments as Mr. Ressa, just the previous speaker, because I do think that after the last reapportionment, we kind of lost some area from the north of the 39th District. We would like to go above the 210 up to all those green areas and down to about Burbank Boulevard into the kind of the North Hollywood area to pick up the 702,000 that we need for a congressional district, because I do want to see a congressional district in this area, and even if it spills over a little west of the 405, that's not a sacrosanct type of border. It would just it's there, but I think there's a spillover creating by ethnic communities here. Like I taught I taught 28 years at San Fernando High and several years at Monroe High and Reseda, further west of the 405, and I can tell you that the populations of students have changed dramatically in the last 10 or 15 years. And I would think this whole contiguous area, the new congressional district, would be appropriate because we have people north of San Fernando, south is near the North Hollywood and all these areas that work in educational associations that I've been chairman of once. I was chairman of the Educators Association of Mexican American Educators for the whole valley. And then I was chairman. I've worked with the MEN organization. I've worked with various organizations right now. And we know when we do fundraisers and we do things, all these communities of interest coalesce to support our efforts. And that's why I think one congressional district there moved a little northward, and I'll finish now, and southward to say up to Victory Boulevard or Burbank, up to North Hollywood would be an ideal thing for this wonderful community to prosper in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stanley.
Mr. Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Aguirre.
Yes, yourself and Mr. Ressa mentioned that there's been some demographic shifts, of course, over time, and it seems like the ethnicity has changed to more Latino versus before.
That's true.
So, what would be other communities of interest that tie that area together that would?
I think if you started going west of the 405 up until about, say, Balboa Boulevard, all the way down to Victory or Burbank, that is an area, even further if you want. Those are all communities that coalesce for various functions in throughout the years for fundraising and so forth. So I know that heavy populations of Latinos moving into those areas across the valley.
So, festivals, cultural events. How about Mr. Ressa mentioned working class primarily?
Well, there's a lot of businesses in those areas that cater to the new Latino residents west of the 405. But we're thinking of going north and south to. It's the same thing. Whatever you guys decide. Huh?
Small businesses?
Small businesses, a lot of them, yes. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to meet you again after 31 years.
Not bad.
Number 90.
It's good to be here again to testify. I'm familiar with this area. I've been involved in mapping this area. Some of you may remember Valley Succession, where they many people in the San Fernando Valley wanted to have their own city. It went to the ballot. The map that was on the people ran under the map that I drew that was adopted by LAFCO. So I'm very familiar with the area. I've also been involved in issues dealing with school districts and also with LA City School and also LA City dealing with this area. So I make my remarks based on my knowledge of this area, being involved in various areas of redistricting. I would basically echo some of the remarks made. That's the Sylmar area, the 210 going down the 405. When you get to North Hills, there's an area on the other side of North Hills that's significantly working class area at the 405. Then I would go all the way down the 405 to Van Nuys, and I would go down to basically around the 134, going over to, let's see, I think it was, we were looking at Vineland as the point to the east. And that area is basically has a commonality in being socioeconomically very integrated in terms of it's a working class area. If you compare the areas around it, they're more affluent, with the exception of the North Hills area fits in that, and some portions of Van Nuys. It is different in terms of Shadow Hills and socioeconomic. So we're asking you to look at keeping the 39th as intact as possible because it was drawn. And this, but the other thing is, last redistricting basically took away what the masters had given the courts. They drew a district in the Northeast Valley. What they did was they put in Studio City, which is beneath the 134, different. They put in Sherman Oaks and Encino beneath the 134. It made no sense and basically disenfranchised the Latino community.
Thank you very much.
Number 91.
Buenas tardes. My name is Claudia Martinez, and I'd like to thank you all for hosting this hearing here on this side of the San Fernando Valley. I have to admit, I did go home and I came back. That's one nice thing. I have a living close by. I have been a resident here for over 30 years. I was born in Sun Valley, went to school in Pacoima, Panorama City, San Fernando, and the Sun Valley areas. I am also graduated from Cal State Northridge as a first-generation college student. I have worked in the educational system, volunteered, played, eaten, shopped, gone to church, completed jury duty, and even paid a couple of parking tickets in this community. I am a current active member of Comisión Femenil of San Fernando Valley, a professional service organization dedicated to improving the quality of life of Latina, her community, and as a Comisión Femenil member, I advocate for programs to promote fields in health, education, economic development, and human rights. One major activity that I've been involved with is the Adelante Mujer Latina Conference, as well as youth leadership programs and the scholarship we have. What I'm here today is to ask that you keep close to something of what the Speaker 88 stated is what the 39th State Assembly District represents. As a former college advisor, one thing that I advised students was definitely to fill out financial aid applications for different post-secondary educations. And one thing I noticed as a commonality is what families are expected to contribute is a deciding factor of which our students can attend a post-secondary education. And that's something I believe that some of our congressional district southwest side members don't have or don't need as a deciding factor. I want you to use the 39th State Assembly District as potentially a basis for our congressional district. And I believe that way we can elect people to focus on particular issues that affect expected family contributions, such as income level, educational attainment, as well as other additional resources. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Number 92. Number 93. Number 94.
Good evening. I want to thank you very much for the opportunity you've given me to speak to you. My name is Barbara Harmon. I was born in Burbank in 1938, and I've been connected with my present home in Burbank since my parents built it in 1941. My immediate area is zoned R1H, and my favorite neighbors are horses. Parts of neighboring Sun Valley and Shadow Hills are also equestrian areas, and if possible, it would be nice to be able to keep these areas together. The important areas from Burbank, or the important industries, are the entertainment industries. We've got Warner Brothers, Disney, ABC, NBC, and Dolby Labs in Burbank. Universal Studios is in Universal City. It's merged recently with NBC, and they're operating sort of jointly and employing a lot of Burbank and North Hollywood residents. And so for that, so I would say that Burbank and North Hollywood are the real Hollywood now. And I would hope to keep these two areas together because so many people work in these industries. It's sort of a way of life. We've got a lot of related industries, dance studios, small theaters, and dubbing and production facilities. I'm sorry, 30 seconds. Oh, okay, thank you. So anyway, I would like to keep these the North Hollywood Burbank areas together. I don't feel the connection to Pasadena that some of the previous speakers have mentioned. Culturally, they're a lot richer and different. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Number 95.
Good evening. My name is Glenn Bailey. I wear several hats. The first of which is I'm on the board of the Foundation for the Preservation of the Santa Susana Mountains, which has been working with another group for 30 years, over 30 years, to acquire parklands in the Simi Hills and Santa Susana Mountains. The request in this regard is that the watershed, the ridgeline of the Santa Susana Mountains, that includes the Los Angeles watershed to the south, be included in the same district that includes Porter Ranch and Chatsworth. So we're not dealing with a district that's in Ventura County or in the Santa Clarita Valley. So hopefully that's self-evident there. That would be the ridgeline to the north would include the communities to the south because it's community of interest. Secondly, Valley Cityhood effort in 2002 was mentioned. It should be noted for the area west of the 405, although it passed in the valley barely by 51%. The areas west of the 405 was overwhelming. It was 65% plus passage for Valley Cityhood. So that, in my opinion, is kind of an argument for the feelings of the people who live up west of 405, at least as of that time. I've prepared a map that shows the neighborhood council boundaries for most of the San Fernando Valley, and as you can see, as was said before, all of the neighborhood councils from Granada Hills North all the way down to Encino, the 405 is their easterly boundary. And as far as the question on the division, if there were, say, a northwest and a southwest valley, if you drew the lines above, say, between West Hills, Chatsworth, between Canoga Park and Winnetka along Nordhoff, then drop down to Corbin to Roscoe to the 405, except for this little stretch here of Northridge, you could then have with a coterm and not breaking up communities of interest. If you needed more population for the north, you could drop down to the next line to include the West Hills, to include Canoga Park, Winnetka, as you needed to, and still maintain those interests there. So these are all on the city's website as far as these boundaries. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Number 96. Number 97.
Chair, can I say quickly, that website is www.lacity.org, and you can see those neighborhood boundary lines.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to address the Commission. My name is Ruben Rodriguez. I've been involved in many community events here in the Northeast San Fernando Valley most of my adult life. I've lived in Pacoima for probably about 60 years, which is right in the center of the 39th Assembly District. And I just want to echo some of the comments made earlier. We would like to request that the Commission maintain the Assembly District pretty much intact, allowing obviously for the modifications to allow for population growth and some changes. That should be the starting block on the Northeast San Fernando Valley, from which you can pretty much, even the senatorial district, to remain the same. They are definitely a community of interest. Of a major concern, though, is the 28th Congressional, which last time around, actually on the sample ballot here, one of the arguments presented as to why this commission to come into being was a very blatant removal of a certain socioeconomic class from the 28th Assembly District and move south. I think to correct it, if we left as the starting point the 39th Assembly, the senatorial district remaining the same, and moving the 20th Congressional District up to include what you see there where it says San Fernando 23, that whole green area there, which makes no sense. It was put into another congressional district, and that is definitely part of the community of interest of the Northeast San Fernando Valley. I mean, if we just kept it along the foothills, all three of these districts are contiguous. They're the same community of interest. There's families. There's history. People earn about the same amount of money. I mean, I don't belong to, the country club in Toluca Lake. We're talking about on the south side of that congressional district. We're talking Bob Hope kind of money and wealth. That's definitely part of that Northeast Valley community of interest. So if we could just correct that, I think that's hopefully, it was blatantly done to protect an incumbent, and I think that's why this commission was created, so to correct those ills.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Number 98.
Chairman, members of the Commission, I'm Dorothy Boberg, and I was appointed by the Northridge Civic Association to try and help start the Northridge Neighborhood Council. And I would like to just warn you slightly on neighborhood council lines, because they are pretty much squiggly. But if you really want to consider, for example, Northridge, the closest that comes to the squiggly lines to try and make it more contiguous would be going from the North City line, the 405 freeway on the east, Roscoe on the south, and Corbin on the west. But this is just a part of the idea that has been expressed a number of times, that anything to the west of the 405 freeway would be a good dividing line, even though there are some problems in there. But I think it's more important to take a major freeway as a line rather than to try and squiggle streets. And so one other thing, I'm a member of the, or I'm in the 38th Assembly District, which goes from the valley, San Fernando Valley, up in north of the mountains, and there are a lot of mountains in there. So I would recommend that we stay within the San Fernando Valley for this district. Thank you very much.
Questions? Thank you very much.
Number 99.
This is the biggest map so far.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for your service. My name is Alan Cameron. I am from the Santa Cruz Valley. I should hesitate to say that I in no way represent the city of Santa Clarita. However, 25 years ago, my wife Karen and I were two of the 15 people that created the city to begin with. Santa Clarita has an interesting credential. At the time we formed the city, it was and it remains the largest city at the time of its formation in the United States history. Los Angeles County is the largest county in the United States. There are 88 incorporated cities in the county. Today, Santa Clarita is the third largest of those in population and the fifth largest in area. That's a pending third largest designation that will ratify completely when 3 more annexations complete. I brought this particular map to ask and answer a question to share with you, and that is, what do you do about Santa Clarita that is a jurisdictional orphan? As you can see, nothing is immediately surrounding it that represents population density. But based upon history, there is a clear constructive answer as to how to solve that conundrum. I had planned a 5-minute presentation, so I will be deleting every fifth word from the presentation that I had originally contemplated. For instance, the clear-cut choice for current and historical government conditions is to pair the Santa Clarita Valley with the eastern and northern San Fernando Valley. You've heard a lot of comments about not dividing the San Fernando Valley. There are 6 cities that have already done that in the San Fernando Valley. The point that is critical is that pairing Santa Clarita with the northern and northeastern San Fernando Valley would fulfill all of your criteria. It would create demographic profiles that are 1/3 Democratic, Republican, and Independent. It would mirror the ethnic makeup of California and this commission. If you were to go to Ventura County, which has been suggested, the district would be predominantly Caucasian and Republican. The last comment, if I may, is the Castaic Lake Water Agency indicated they should be in Ventura County. They're one of 57 special districts that govern Santa Clarita. They're the only one that crosses a county line. Thank you.
Sir, if you have your full 5 minutes written down, we'd be more than happy to receive it.
So thrilled you asked that question.
Ready? Good evening, Commissioners. I am Diane Troutman. I'm an 18-year resident of the City of Santa Clarita, a small business owner, and a former 2-term planning commissioner for the city. I'm here representing myself and not the city. I want to thank you for your service, as everyone else has. It's a huge job that you've taken on, and I thank you for the transparency in the process. It's so important. So first I want to ask you to include the entire Santa Clarita Valley in one AD, Senate district, and congressional district, and the Board of Equalization. We've been split up, and it really makes things difficult for us. And I think we should stay in Los Angeles County. And moving beyond that, consider the linking us with the North San Fernando Valley. Our commonalities include a history of cooperation on issues of landfills, environmental preservation, and community development, transportation impacts at the convergence of the I-5, the State Route 14, and the 210. 50% of our residents plus commute out of the valley, and I would say that most of them go into the San Fernando Valley, so that's a big issue. Many of our Santa Clarita Valley residents have family, friends, and businesses in the San Fernando Valley, and the Santa Clarita Valley is closely linked with the entertainment industry, which generates tens of millions of dollars for our economy. So I think we have a lot more in common with areas south than we do north. And as for watershed, if you wanted to include them, you could include Acton and Agua Dulce. But I think keeping it within that frame, all of the Santa Clarita Valley and, again, the North San Fernando Valley would be great. Thank you again for your time and your interest in our comments. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
For the record, the previous speaker was number 100. We're at 101.
Hello. I've gotten to know all of you very well sitting here today. Thank you again for your service. We're putting our faith in you, you know. My name is Nancy Eisenhardt. I'm born in Los Angeles, grew up in the Valley. Whether I'm a Valleyite or a Valley girl, you can decide that. But I've lived in North Hollywood, Panorama City, Tarzana, Woodland Hills. I've worked in Burbank, Glendale, Woodland Hills, and more. I've We volunteer in Woodland Hills. I served for 7 years on the Woodland Hills Warner Center Neighborhood Council, and I was president of the Friends of the Library. My children and grandchildren are Valley people. I want you to have some faith, too, in the Neighborhood Council delineations. I do have some handouts here listing them, matching the numbers that are on that map are the dates of certification. Otherwise, they don't make much sense because they have nothing to do with size or anything. The people hammered out these districts to best represent their areas, and it took a long time, and there was a process for each one. So I want you to have some faith in that. It is a little tricky in the middle if you're going to work with 405, or as I prefer to say, Sepulveda Boulevard, because North Hills overlaps that. You may have to move it a little bit, but we're talking about representation. We have all here been misrepresented. Whether you lived in the east part of the valley or the west part of the valley, lines were drawn to favor special interests and groups, whether they're a political party or what, however you want to define it. So in Woodland Hills, we have like 3 assembly districts or something. You know, I'm not getting into that technicality. You've got all the numbers here. You guys look like you were broken up quite a bit. This is what we don't want. We are all residents of the San Fernando Valley. Keep us this way. I think we're better divided north-south, except for the East Valley. Burbank is a good place to start, giving them their community against the hills there. Thank you very much. Thank you again.
Thank you. And given all the places you live, you're clearly a Valley girl.
Number 102. 103.
No, here he comes, 103.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, Joe Edmiston. I'm here representing a coalition of organizations for the community of interest of the Santa Monica Mountains. My professional background, I'm a fellow of the American Institute of Certified Planners. I teach in the landscape architecture program at UCLA. My day job is in Malibu as executive director of the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. But again, here I'm representing the citizens representing in this coalition. I'd like to have my remarks accepted for the record. The community of interest of the Santa Monica Mountains was identified first in 1976, Santa Monica Mountains Comprehensive Planning Act, 1980, Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy Act. The Special Masters 1991 district boundary for the 23rd Senate District accurately represents that community of interest. And if you cluster and I want to say cluster cluster. The Assembly and Senate districts together, you have a pretty good commonality of interest. What are those commonalities of interest? First of all, protection of the Santa Monica Mountains. That's probably the number one public policy issue in that area. Second, traffic. You have the Z pattern of the 101, the Malibu Canyon and Topanga Canyon and Pacific Coast Highway. You have the cross canyon roads that are vital in terms of linking both, for example, Tarzana, Woodland Hills, Sherman Oaks with the West Side communities and with Santa Monica and the communities, and we have 22 seconds. So I don't really know how to best, in the 20 seconds left, say other than that the Special Masters, when they did the 1991, combined a community of interest that has succeeded in protecting the Santa Monica Mountains, and we want to be able to continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Oh, yes, sir, we have a question.
I just want to acknowledge that I do know Mr. Edmondson doing my work along the Mulholland Scenic Parkway corridor, reviewing residential developments adjacent to those mountains. I would say, do you agree with the testimony that was brought before us that the ridgeline along Mulholland forms a distinct breaking point at this point in terms of developing communities of interest north versus those south?
I would say if you go from the 405 essentially west, the communities of interest are probably more committed to the mountains on both sides of Mulholland than they would necessarily be further east. I think if you get further east, you do have more distinct communities between, for example, Hollywood and North Hollywood. But I think basically the 91 23rd District goes a little bit east of the 405 freeway. And if you take those communities of interest and express them all the way to the county line, I think you've got a good cluster of community.
Thank you. I asked you that because those mountains are on both sides of that Mulholland Ridgeline, so you would know. Thank you
very much, sir.
Thank you for your service on the Mulholland. We have a pretty darn good Mulholland Design Review Board as a result of your work, so thank you.
Number 104. 105. 106.
I would like to first acknowledge the dynamic and the makeup of this commission, where we have ethnicity, we have gender, we have age diversity here. I also would like to thank you for your efforts embarking on a historic moment in the state of California, finally taking away one of the greatest tools of terrorism implemented by our politicians, called writing their own districts up. My name is Mark Reed. I've been a San Fernando Valley resident for 54 years. I own businesses. I'm a grandfather of 7. I'm a father of 3. I have worked in diversity for over 20 years. One of the greatest elements that has not been discussed in this whole forum at this point, I've listened for 4 or 5 hours, I don't even know what time it is anymore, 4 or 5 hours now, of all the self-interest of communities. The reason why Prop 11 and Prop 14 was implemented was because of Americanism and the lack of the voices being heard in our Assembly, Senate, and congressional districts. So when you take ethnicity into account, you take the ugly head of racism, which shows its ugly head through economics, through color, through gender, through age, through all kinds of avenues, you are doing a disservice to the American individual who is paying taxes and wants representation through a state senator, through a state assemblyman, through his U.S. senator and U.S. congressman. I am, too, for the holding together of the San Fernando Valley, of living here my entire life. And it is the simple boundaries of the Ventura County line, Mulholland, the Santa Susana Mountains and the Angeles Crest Mountains. And there's enough for 2 and 2/3 congressional districts. And the dynamics of the senator seats and the assembly seats should all remain in the San Fernando Valley. It is a very unique community, ethnically diverse all the way through the entire. And I know the district really well from the businesses that I do own currently and where I've been through the valley. You can't take one pocket and say it's more Latino here, because I can say it's more Latino over there. It's more Armenian here, Persian there, Jewish here, white there. It's not. We are all Americans in the San Fernando Valley looking for our voices to be heard in a unified manner, in knowing exactly who our congressman is, exactly who our senator is, exactly who our assemblyman is, and not trying to figure out, is White Oak the dividing line between Sherman and Berman? That's it. Thank you.
Sir, thank you.
Number 107.
Good evening. I think it's evening. I'm Reverend Letitia Stewart-Smith, and I hold several hats in the community. I actually live in Pasadena, but I do my service and work in the Santa Clarita Valley. I'm the pastor of Castaic Community AME Church in Castaic, and I'm also blessed to be the president of the Castaic Chamber of Commerce. And I'm here to represent the Castaic community and the Val Verde community. We would like to remain as a whole, Santa Clarita Valley, all the way. And we appreciate the Santa Clarita City being willing to include us in the presentation process of all of this. The thing that I came here planning to say, oh yes, let's go east, but listening to everyone speak, I'm wondering if that's a good idea. And I'm also wondering if going west is a good idea, because I happen to work for Los Angeles County, my day job that makes all the money, with the Los Angeles County, and I know the challenges when the county is split, when you're dealing with healthcare services and things of that nature. And looking at the map, Castaic happens to be in the 37th district, and looking at that map, there's very little population, is very sparsely populated, and so I'm wondering if the voice is being heard as it should be heard. So it's important that those communities go with the community that can represent them the best, and Castaic and Valverde go with the community where they can be represented the best. And so I think we should go east if we have to, or maybe south to San Fernando Valley, as opposed to going east or west. Thank you. Any questions? You don't have any questions? Okay. Thank you very much. I wish you the best. I'll be praying for you.
Number 108. (108) 109. 110. Oh, sorry, 109.
Good evening. The map here shows the San Fernando Valley with the parcels in gray. And so when it gets up, where there are no parcels, it means there is virtually no population. So every voter deserves to be able to vote for representatives that live in the same area and are familiar with the local school, shopping areas, and similar local issues. Drawing the necessary boundary lines has always been contentious, but recently it's been even more so. Politicians select friendly voters, and some vocal communities get boundaries that they favor, while the leftover people, districts, contort around the favored districts and have absolutely no sense of community. In a large suburb like the San Fernando Valley, the question of where to start drawing the lines can be far too arbitrary. I therefore propose that the first lines drawn be those that reflect the barriers to travel, and those are in purple. Although frequently ignored in the past, traversing these barriers can be an overwhelming challenge, especially for weeknight meetings that are often the foundation of grassroots political organizing. In the creation of contiguous and compact political districts, as the crow flies should not be a positive consideration. The San Fernando Valley is ringed by mountains and has both absolute barriers and relative barriers, which include both bands of resistance in the hills and choke points along our freeways. So what I've described here are the dark lines are the absolute barriers, the points are the choke points, and that band right there in the middle in the lower part is a band of resistance. The 6 mile, in the Santa Monica Mountains, the 6 mile absolute barrier between Topanga Canyon Boulevard and the 405 freeway has often been crossed by political districts, but since no non-governmental vehicle is allowed to traverse this barrier, weekend travel from one side to the other required hours. So I urge you to distinguish between the high priority and the low priority areas or boundaries in this important once-in-a-decade grouping.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Number 110.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for allowing me to address you, and thank you also for volunteering to be commissioners. My name is Mary Boger, and I am a 30-year child and public education advocate. I am also a 9-year member of the Glendale Unified School District Board of Education, having served twice as its president. As a volunteer in the Glendale Public Schools and during my tenure as a Board of Education member, I have seen again and again the importance of the cooperation, collaboration, and communication with our area education partners, Burbank and Pasadena. I have also seen the strength this brings to our efforts to advocate for our students. GUSD is a member of the Five Star Coalition, a partnership which includes Pasadena, Burbank, and Glendale school districts. Because our school districts are contiguous and because we share many of the same challenges in meeting the needs of our students, our working together and having a collective voice has benefited our children. When not one but 3 school districts share a common concern or a common cause or a common challenge, we bring a stronger voice to our role as advocates for our students. For the last 20 years, the Burbank-Glendale-Pasadena collaboration has done just that. Communication is the key to our success. We work together not only through the Five Star Coalition, but through our roles as special education local plan agencies, as a part of Region 23 of the California School Boards Association, as members of the Los Angeles County School Board or School Trustees Association, and through the Vertigo Workforce Investment Board, providing school-to-career opportunities for our students. Over and over again, we see that our efforts to serve our students benefit from our being able to present a united voice which speaks for our area on issues that deeply affect our students. Please consider carefully the long-standing cooperation, collaboration, and communication which exists not only between our school districts but between our cities. Please recognize this important partnership, Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena, and help us to maintain our long-standing efforts and effectiveness.
Excuse me, I do have a quick question. Just curious, because of your experience in long-term service to education, do those 3 cities, do you have much in common in terms of the educational with Altadena or La Cañada, Flint Ridge? Do your schools or school districts or students cross those boundaries at all, or is it pretty much just the 3 cities?
Yes, our students do cross some of those boundaries. Our school district, Glendale Unified, includes that small piece of unincorporated Los Angeles immediately to the right of where it says La Crescenta. Yes, that and a very tiny sliver of La Cañada, Flint Ridge, is also a part of the Glendale Unified School District.
But Altadena is not a part of?
Altadena is not.
Is it its own school district?
I think it's Pasadena.
Part of Pasadena, okay.
And you had a question, or someone had a question earlier about who represented that area. I can tell you that just the Glendale Unified School District, we are represented by Assembly Districts 38, 43, 44, and 59. We have senators for 21 and 29, and congressional representation from 26 and 29. And the frustrating thing for me as a school board member and as a public education and child advocate is that I can tell you without any shadow of a doubt or reservation that we represent such a teeny tiny portion for 2 of those assembly members that we are of no use to them. And therefore, I say quite honestly, we are of little or no interest to them because of that. Thank you very much.
Number 111.
My name's not on the list. A friend of mine gave me this card. My name is Terry Brady. I live in Chatsworth. I hope that I can also submit comments on a couple of other areas that I spend a lot of time in, Topanga and in the West Side. My parents live on the West Side, and I know somewhat about regions in that area. And I know that Topanga wants to stay together as a community. But in Chatsworth, when I was looking at these questions, I just realized that I have much more to say about Chatsworth, because that's where I've lived for about 17 years. So I just want to say that above the 118, you may not, your map doesn't show Chatsworth, Northridge, Canoga Park, Winnetka. I think somebody said that might be on the city website, but Chatsworth includes that area that has a lake, that's Chatsworth Lake, and the Santa Susana area. And some of the things that unify us as horse ownership, you can't own a horse everywhere. I don't own a horse, but I recognize that if you did have a horse, you'd want to be able to keep it and not, have to give it up. So I think that it's very, and there are a lot of parts of LA where people would be like, I don't want to live next to a horse because they're smelly. And Chatsworth is pretty open to that, and there have been often at city council meetings comments that we don't want a subdivision of rich houses next to us because then they'll get mad at us for having horses. And I recognize that as an important element of Chatsworth. Winnetka has a similar situation in that they're still zoned agricultural and people can keep a goat. And so Winnetka should also have some protection, and I really feel some affinity, Chatsworth and Winnetka, even though I don't have a horse or a goat. I just recognize, it's kind of important. And also, another thing about Chatsworth that's very important is that we most of us are advocates for that Santa Susana State Historic Park. And that runs up past the 118 on Topanga Canyon Boulevard North, as well as into that area that you're calling Santa Susana, I believe, that a lot of people who live in those areas, and some of that is across the Ventura County line. And I do actually want to say also the rim of the valley trail corridor that circles the valley is there are parks that a lot of us really want to keep protected. There's open space, and a lot of people are acting like open space needs a road through it. And I just want to remind people of the Cree statement that once you've polluted every river and cut down every tree, you'll realize you can't eat money. Thank you.
Could I ask our staff a question? Do we have a code for goats and smelly horses?
Sorry. A question?
That was rude. Commissioner Aguirre, you'll find out next week when you get to Horsetown, USA, where we can have, I believe, 6 animal units on our 20,000 acres.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. Should I?
I apologize. We're just...
It was a joke?
It was a joke. It was a joke.
Number 112.
Thank you. When I first got here, I was all the way in the back. I only thought there was 9 of you, so I made 9 copies. I apologize to the other people back here. Sorry. But I also saw so many darn maps, I never saw any mountains, so I went home and I Googled it, and I got you a map there with some mountains on it to make things a little bit simpler, so Malibu has got nothing to do with the San Fernando Valley. Right. My name is Manny Solano. I've lived in the San Fernando Valley for over 30 years in Northridge and West Hills and Porter Ranch. My office is in Woodland Hills, so I traverse the west side of the San Fernando Valley every single day. My occupation as a mortgage broker, realtor, investor, and I even had a garment manufacturing company in Northridge for 9 years. In other parts of the state, you're going to find counties or cities with populations of $20,000 to $100,000, 100,000. See, everything's in money for mortgage brokers. I'm sorry, 100,000 residents. But in the city of Los Angeles, you have 3 million people. With the city of Los Angeles, we do not have separately incorporated suburbs, but rather official neighborhood councils. That's why I brought this map, because I think this map on the 210 councils makes your life extremely easy. You can go home now. I'm here for just the east and the west side of the valley, and they've done it so well. The official map of the neighborhood council showing the borders between each neighborhood and the jurisdictions of each neighborhood council. The first thing you will see is that these east and west is evenly divided down the 405 freeway, which if you took a percentage of all the people that spoke today, I think everybody's in agreement, that should be the dividing factor is the 405 freeway. Your life is simple. Then you have a north and a south boundaries. You will also see that that is it, that you're either on the east or on the west of the 405 freeway. On this particular map, you have the West Valley in blue and the East Valley in purple. You'll be very happy to hear when you notice what the congressional requirement is of $703,000, that the East Valley has about 1 million people, and the West Valley is just short of 700,000 people. If you give them Agora, Thousand Oaks, and Calabasas, they made it. And again, you can go home. But I also gave you a lovely map that shows you the topography of our hills, because the East and West Valley is pretty simple. The rest of your job is where you have more difficult times. As you can see in the council map, the purple and the blue are all that I'm talking about. Below that is the basin, below that is Los Angeles, and pretty much that's it. If you did the East and the West division like that, you'd have your congressional maps, and when we came back to cessation, we'd be easy to get the right people to talk about. Thank you very much for your time.
I have a question, actually.
Go ahead.
So you're a realtor.
As well.
Maybe you can answer a question I've had from the beginning of this session today. We've had a lot of actually contradictory testimony about Thousand Oaks and where it should be and whether it should be part of this West Valley that people are talking about, and whether that West Valley should cross over and, into Ventura, that it's not really a county issue, it's more of a regional, community of interest. And then, of course, we had people from Ventura come and say, no, Thousand Oaks should stay in Ventura. We don't want to, we want to keep all of Ventura in one, political district without parts of L.A. County that are located in the West Valley. A lot of the people who commented on wanting to push into Ventura County in the early part of the meeting, were you here?
Well, I was.
Okay. Were with real estate associations. And so I'm just curious, do you have a sense of that? Because it was just interesting to me. And then later, a whole different set of people that were more like people met from the governments, and that you said, no, there's no reason for us to do that. We want to keep Ventura, you're in the business. I'm curious what's going on there in terms of development and stuff, that's such a hot issue.
I think from your position and not from being a realtor's position, you're trying to keep commonality. Those people that are living in Calabasas and Westlake and Thousand Oaks, they moved from the valley. That's where they're from, and that's where they're probably driving to work. Now, there's a more affluent area, Calabasas, Westlake, as far as dollar amount and everything like that. I'm not sure as to what your mission is with regards to dividing areas. As to those people that are living in those areas, I would suppose that the majority of them do not go to work in Ventura County other than where they're at right now or the San Fernando Valley, and they came from the San Fernando Valley. If you were able to get those statistics, I think that would bear me out.
Thank you.
Number 113.
My name is Mary Hubbard. I'm one of those residents in Calabasas. I'm the president of the the Malibu Canyon Community Association, a homeowners association of about 400 homes. We bill ourselves as the gateway to the Santa Monica Mountains, and the Santa Monica Mountains and its national recreation area is our identity. Thus, the cities around those mountains are a distinct community of interest and should be kept together. That would include Westlake Village, Agora Hills, Calabasas, Hidden Hills, and east to fill the numbers required. However, it does not include VICA's recommendation to go as far east as Burbank and Glendale. Those communities belong with Pasadena, and we have very little in common with them, except they have the IKEA, so we have to go there a couple times a year. In fact, the further east that one goes on the 101, the less Calabasas has in common with them, and we, in fact, incorporated to escape the valley. That also answers the question of what to do with Malibu, because they share those Santa Monica Mountains and the National Recreation Area and a watershed with Calabasas. Calabasas uses their beaches, and we drain to those beaches. It's important to keep those public lands and their users together. That would certainly link Calabasas South to all the beach communities. Thousand Oaks is a sticky question. They seem to identify more closely with Moore Park, Simi Valley, and those communities in Ventura County. In summary, our 1991 redistricting boundaries seem to make the most sense. Thank you.
I've got a quick question. What about Topanga, Santa Monica?
Topanga is an integral part of the Santa Monica Mountains and needs to be included with that, definitely. Santa Monica is a little more separate, but if I just think of where I work, shop, and play, I go to Santa Monica 2, 3, 4 times a week. So, and I used to work there, so that is, and the beaches are there. I run there frequently, shop there frequently, dine there frequently, so it is definitely part of our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm interested in that you go from Calabasas to Santa Monica a few times a week. And I'm curious how you get there and how long it takes you.
Down the Malibu Canyon Road, that takes a lot of the Z traffic down to PCH and over to Santa Monica. It's beautiful. Sure beats the 101. And it's about a half an hour drive if there isn't traffic. So.
And could you speak just one last thing very quickly? Is it common, we've heard this in some public testimony and things we've received in writing, that there are a number of people from this area Agora Hills, Calabasas, that to avoid the 101, 405, they go through, what are the, I'm trying to remember the roads that are.
Canaan Doom Road down to PCH.
Yeah, Laurel Canyon, all that. Is that usually their mode of transportation, or do they go up and around?
Yes, we use, those are our Z connectors, the Canaan Doom Road, the Malibu Canyon Road, and Topanga Canyon all take us down to PCH, which is a much better commute than the 101 and the 405. So.
Number 114.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Romo. I'm just a private citizen here to express my concerns. First of all, thank you all for coming. I'm going to take a break from just about what everyone else has said. My area of concern is the Los Angeles Basin. I couldn't make the meeting. I attended part of the meeting on Thursday, but I had to leave early because of family commitments, so I wanted to make sure I had my voice heard. I'm 53 years old. I've been working as a computer programmer in downtown Los Angeles for about 25 years. And I'm proud to say, I know people have the valley in different areas, but no one ever says anything about the people who live in the basin. I'm a basin boy, and that's what I call myself, except for about 15 years when my wife and I lived in the western Ventura County. I was born, raised, and all my roots are still in the LA Basin. After my wife passed away, I moved back to Los Angeles to be close to my remaining family and to be close to downtown to save fuel and things like that. So I really do have a strong background in that area. As I said, I watched it grow. There was a time when there was changes in ethnicity and makeup, but surprisingly, the neighbors that my mom has, and she's still around at 90 years old, her neighbors have been there 40, 50 years. Some of them have passed away and the children have inherited the properties. That's a fairly stable neighborhood. It's been that way for at least 30 years in terms of ethnicity, in terms of culture, background, all that. Okay, and I really would like you to keep roughly what I consider the area from like the 405 south of Hollywood to the LA River and about just a little north of Long Beach, that whole area as sharing common religion, cultures, languages, background. The people share everything. Our family is intercultural, interethnicity. Everybody is one big family down there, and it would be hard to break them apart. Questions? Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you.
Number 115.
Commissioners, thank you for hosting us today. I'm Dennis Washburn. I'm the past mayor and founder of the city of Calabasas, and also the founder and a past president of the Las Virgenes Malibu Council of Governments. And I'm currently the president of the Resource Conservation District of the Santa Monica Mountains, which is one of 103 special districts in California that deal with integrated resources management in very special areas like the San Fernando Valley, the Santa Monica Mountains, the Simi Hills, and so forth. I'm here to request that the area of our conservation district, which is also the area of our school district and the area of our water and sanitation district, and is actually very strongly oriented around the watersheds that are in that territory as well, be kept together. However, the need may be to go easterly from basically the LA County line in Thousand Oaks to some part of the western part of the San Fernando Valley. I wish I'd been able to speak to you all earlier because I actually have a watersheds map, and I'm going to leave that for you. I also have, and this is very telling. And everybody all day today was trying to describe, well, hey, the water goes from here to here, and therefore the people live from here and here, and they have to respect the environment from there and there and take the roads here and here and so forth. The roads follow the water. The water follows the future of what we need to do for ourselves as well with our elected officials, and that is to address very critical issues of land use, open space preservation and conservation of the resources, transportation corridors that serve us or don't, the housing complexity that we all face, and the climate change issues and policies that we're all going to have to face in the next 10 or 20 years when we might get around to redistricting another time. So let me give you this map, and I would strongly urge you to take a look. I drew arrows on here to show you where the flows went, if I can give you that. And then I have a map for each of you that shows you the Las Virgenes Unified School District, which actually shows better than that almost what the topography is like and where the school district jurisdiction lies. And it lies in that area that you've heard Joe Edmiston and so many other speakers speak about. It includes also the West San Fernando Valley interface between Los Angeles County and Ventura County in Bell Canyon, Chatsworth Reservoir area, San Susana Pass, and all that other business. So take a look at this. And then last is the map from the Resource Conservation District of the Santa Monica Mountains, and where you need detail, I'd be happy to talk with staff as to how that might help you in your deliberations, because it will definitely help you. I did want to say that I'm speaking also for my wife, who is the president until March 1st of the Calabasas Chamber of Commerce. So I'm going to.
I apologize. Time's up.
That's fine. I'm going to leave you a copy of the Calabasas booklet, which has the.
Sir, that's time.
It's
We'll take the book.
The first gold LEED certified civic center in America.
Hey, number 116, please.
Through the map.
116? 117? Thank you.
Good evening, folks. I spoke with you in Claremont a couple months ago, and I began to mention there that, getting to another area of the state, the North Coast region is unique geographically and otherwise. More people in the northwestern California as compared to the rest of Northern California, more related to academic institutions, especially in the Humboldt Bay area. There are more tourist industries due to redwoods and ocean and things. There's the back to the land counterculture, the cannabis culture, formerly a significant fishing industry, but that's been hammered by excessive logging, and a lot of retirees head up there, and it's certainly geographically separated from inland territories, and the county boundaries make sense. That eastern boundaries of the coastal counties, so Del Norte County, Humboldt County, Mendocino County should definitely be kept together. I believe they're together currently in districts, except I believe that Del Norte County is part of a state senate district which heads east. And whether you can get an entire district with Del Norte, Humboldt, Mendocino, and Lake County, and then certain districts might have to go into Sonoma or possibly Napa or Yolo County. I agree with Ms. Brady, who mentioned that the greater Topanga area should be kept together. I went to college at UC Santa Barbara, and it's an outrage that the densely populated community out there near the university is in the same state senate district as eastern Ventura County. The college community is 95% pro-choice, doesn't like war, whereas eastern Ventura County is opposite. And I disagree with Mr. Nava, who said the SB County Santa Barbara County should be kept together. It's significant differences between southern and northern Santa Barbara County. And lastly, Malibu is quite linked to Santa Monica and all those canyon roads that go from the west side over to 101. I think that's sort of should be kept together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Number 117? Oh, sorry, number 118? Excellent.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the Commission for coming out here. I could honestly say, welcome to the neighborhood. My name is Sergio Ibarra, and I'm here representing the Arleta Neighborhood Council. I'm the president there. I grew up here in the northeast San Fernando Valley. If you could bring up Congressional District 28, please. I grew up here in the northeast San Fernando Valley, went to San Fernando High School. I'm also a Matador. just finished my MPA there, so I'm all about civic engagement, and I want to thank you guys for providing this opportunity for us to present. In front of you, you have a PowerPoint about Arlita's vision statement, which is a community that is involved, clean, safe, family-oriented, well-educated, green, and diverse. I have information about the community profile. Arlita is served by one LAPD mission station. We're also served by one Los Angeles Fire Station number 7. We have commonalities with the communities of Pacoima, Mission Hills, Panorama City, North Hills, and to somewhat, we do not have similarities to North Hollywood and Sun Valley, which tends to be more industrialized. As you saw up there, Congressional District 28, the last time go around, it included communities in the most southern part. Arlita is, I would not say poor. We are very rich in culture and diversity, and we want to make sure that we keep that. With the redistricting, it literally disenfranchised us politically because we want to be able to have representation in our congressional districts, and I would encourage the commission to please consider Assembly District 39, the current lines, to moving Congressional District 38 up to the northern part all the way up to Sylmar. With that, I want to thank the commission again. Was a little nervous, but I hope I delivered my message. Thank you.
Any questions?
So I'm just curious, just to make sure we have this correct. Where would you like to be included in terms of not just districts but communities?
Northeast San Fernando Valley includes the communities of Sylmar, Mission Hills, City of San Fernando, and I would say to somewhat Mission Hills. So it would be the northeast.
And north, okay. North.
Yeah, northeast, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Oh, one other question.
Thank you for your work with the Neighborhood Council. And we in the Planning Department in the city depend on your decisions to assist us with our land use decision-making process. So thank you.
Thank you.
Number 119. Number 120.
I too wish to thank you for your service. I'm Karen Suter, and I live in La Crescenta and have lived in that area practically all of my life. I retired as speech therapist from La Cañada High School. Have spent most of my adult life in education. And we have a very strong Crescenta Valley Town Council that represents us across the foothill area of La Cañada at La Crescenta. And as expressed by Mary Boger on our school board, we are very fragmented in our representation, and we would like you to resolve that for us and look forward to that. And we do have a very strong community feeling, and it's a rather homogeneous area, and I hope to follow this up with a written communication, so I'll keep this very brief, but we are a part of the Glendale Unified School District. All of La Crescenta is, and so that might be a logical connection. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 121. 122. 123.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nina Royal. I am from Sunland Tahunga, so if you could pull up that map, I would appreciate it. I'm publisher and editor of the North Valley Reporter. I am the founder and been on the board of the Sunland Tahunga Neighborhood Council since its inception in 2001. I'm a member of the Community Police Advisory Board for the Foothill Division. I have an organization called Sunland Tahunga Safety and Emergency Response Volunteer Services. Sunland Tahunga, what they did to Sunland Tahunga in 2000 is a crime. We've been sliced and diced. If you look at Sunland Tahunga, we have 4 different representatives. No one had a big enough piece of us to give a really darn about us, even attend our neighborhood council meetings or anything else. Buck McCann, who is from Santa Clarita, has to jump over the hill. He has no other community that is contiguous. We are a part of the San Fernando Valley. Unfortunately, the city of Los Angeles didn't find that out until the neighborhood councils came into existence. The Foothill Division, the Community Police Advisory Board, and the Foothill Division covers Sun Valley, Pacoima, Latuna Canyon, Shadow Hills, Lakeview Terrace, and of course Sunland Tahunga. Battalion 12 of the Fire Department covers all those same areas. The North Valley Reporter covers the whole North San Fernando Valley, all the way over to Sylmar, North Ridge, North Hills, Mission Hills, Granada Hills, Panorama City. It was the neighborhood councils that helped defeat Las Lomas. We worked alongside Santa Clarita to bring that about. We service all the areas along the 210 up to the I-5 freeways along that corridor. I think that economics has to come out of the picture. I think it needs to have more to do with land use, community plans, scenic corridor, business corridor plans. These are the things that make a difference. I'm Italian. I'll go down to St. Peter's to have my social with my community. I don't think it belongs in this type of an environment. It needs to be land use and economics. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 124. What? 125?
Good evening. I was hoping to be 129, but I missed it by a few people, because usually the last person heard is the one that you remember the most. Hi, I'm Nora Ross, and I'm the Executive Director for a local Chamber of Commerce in the West Valley. I'm on the Board of Directors of United Chambers and Valley Economics. I reside in Granada Hills, so you can see I get around. I was raised in the city, and I've lived in the Valley for 30 years, and the two worlds apart. The city and the Valley have nothing to do with each other. In the Valley, the San Fernando Valley, as you know, can consist of the 8th largest city in the United States. We don't need to go to the prom with anybody else. The San Fernando Valley should be kept in itself. I am mainly concerned with the West San Fernando Valley, as you can tell from the areas that I work and live in. And I feel that it should not be gerrymandered up. I have 3 congressmen, 5 state senators, and 5 assemblymen. I don't know who I need to report to for work or home. Very confusing, and I'm getting too old to play the game. So I'm looking to you, as this Board of Commissioners, to at least look at the communities that you're working with. Keep it through the 405 freeway as a suggestion, going west. Don't break it up down streets. I don't want my north side of the street being represented by one person and the south side of the street being represented by somebody else. Make life a little bit easier for commerce. The businessmen in the area need to know who they can go to. We would very much like to see the West Valley represented by 1 congressman, 1 to 2 state senators, 1 assembly person. So when you're looking to the direction, we're asking to please make it as minimal as possible. Keep it so that the businesses have 1 person to contact and not a number of offices. This would help quite a bit as the residents as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
126. 127.
Good evening. My name is Gina Cassidy, and I'm here speaking. My communities of interest are Irwindale, Baldwin Park, and El Monte, which all reside along the 605 freeway. I have worked in Irwindale for several years and believe that there are many recreational areas, such as the Santa Fe Dam, which is located in Irwindale, that bring members from the various communities there, as well as the Irwindale Speedway, which is a major racing destination. Baldwin Park is home to many eateries, which we all flock to during lunch. And El Monte has several dealerships, such as Honda and Toyota, which major purchases are made from these 3 communities. So that's it. Thank you.
128.
Good evening. My name is Brian Cassidy, and first off, I'm excited to represent Generation Y. It doesn't seem like we've had enough representation, but exciting to be up here today, and thank you for your time. So I'm here representing the communities of Burbank, North Hollywood, and La Tuna Canyon. I've been a resident of the East San Fernando Valley for about the last 8 years now, so I'm very familiar with this part of the region. And I really do believe that these three communities should be clustered together when the redistricting happens, mainly because in the city of Burbank, some of the main hub for entertainment is in this area. You have several studios, including Disney, Warner Brothers, and NBC, including several malls, such as the Burbank Mall for entertainment. And people in this community that live in this area flock to the neighboring city of North Hollywood as a way to escape. In this city, it's composed of mainly artists who work in the industry, and the nightlife is here, the culture, restaurants, a lot of comedy clubs and so forth. Additionally, La Tuna Canyon provides the recreational outlet for the residents and people in this community. There are several amazing hiking trails and biking trails in the La Tuna Canyon. So I really do believe that these communities should be clustered, and I would appreciate if you take into consideration these three communities, and it would be a major disservice to the city of LA if you were to break apart this artistic community.
Can I ask just one quick question? Because we've heard a lot of testimony about Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena being kept together, but there's been a few smatterings of Burbank and North Hollywood. I'm assuming there's probably an edge on Burbank that you feel may belong in North Hollywood. I'm just making that assumption. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if so, could you give us some boundaries as to how far into Burbank do you feel like the connection with North Hollywood goes?
I would say probably going a little above the 5 freeway, including that area north of the 5 freeway, south of Hanson Dam Park, so encompass that area.
Okay, thank you.
And La Tuna Canyon is also, that's the recreation area that you were referring to?
Yes.
Okay, doesn't look like there's much of anything else up in there.
There is a small community up there as well, though.
Thank you.
Number 129.
And the winner is.
So it looks like I'm the last one. Okay, my name is Sonia Narula. I just want to let you guys know, when I walked in here at 5 o'clock, I was so intimidated by everyone making their speeches and knowing so much about geography and redistricting that I actually walked down the street and had a beer. Really good sushi restaurant. I didn't, but do the same after this is over, and I'll be short and quick.
Okay, Janice, you can turn off the time machine.
The cities that I want to talk about today are actually in the Inland Empire, so this doesn't have to do with the valley so much. I'm going to be covering Redlands, Mentone, Calamasa, Yucaipa, and Beaumont. And the reason why I chose Redlands was because I went to the university, and the majority of the population either works in the education services or the healthcare industry. And I myself am a speech-language pathologist, and so the education services are definitely a great asset. Also, Redlands is a cultural hub for a lot of the diversity, social scenes, kind of the entertainment scenes. So I feel like people from Yucaipa, Mentone, and Calamasa come to Redlands and also Beaumont to participate in that cultural diversity. Some of the common businesses there are in construction, so I feel like the economic growth and the income is relatively the same among those cities. And the two major ethnic groups being Caucasian, Hispanic, and relatively the same age groups and people with similar interests and values kind of all reside in those areas. So that's why I chose those cities.
I think she set us up quite well, since our next meeting will take place right in Norco Riverside, our next input hearing. So, well, the next series, I should say. So thank you for setting this up nicely.
So I have a question for you.
Sure.
What made you wait
This long?
5.5 hours to talk about this neighborhood?
Well,
Serious?
I lived in Redlands for 6 years, so really it's like kind of my hometown, and it's really near and dear to my heart. So I want to make sure that those communities are heard, and it's where I spend a lot of my time. So.
And we have one other question for you.
Sure.
I live in the city of Claremont, a little to the west of Redland.
Uh-huh.
Do you feel more associated with the cities to the east or cities to the west of Redland? In other words, if we have to draw a district, we need to add other cities to your community of interest in order to make a district. So,
right.
if we need to do that, would you feel more comfortable with going westward or eastward?
I think more westward, just because I spent, and I'm just speaking from personal reference, I spent more time in the Riverside, kind of Redlands area, so I can only speak on that. But
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I think it may be time to call this meeting to an end. Thank you all very, very much for coming.